Okay, so you think that you're ready, but I'm telling you, I think you're totally ready. So you watched a few tutorials, maybe you got a book, maybe you went to a class, and then you finally drafted your own sewing pattern. You made it into a garment and it fits. And I told you, you can totally do it. But now the next question is, are there any tools that will make your life a little bit easier if you want to continue drafting your own sewing patterns? And the answer is yes, very budget friendly. And we're not talking about super specific, super expensive tools that people in the garment industry use, for example. We're talking about tools for us, mortal people at home who want to make patterns that fit and make beautiful clothes to wear. So this is my list of budget-friendly tools that you can use for your pattern drafting at home that I personally use. So I really hope that you enjoy this. And this video has been kindly sponsored by Skillshare. Thanks so much, Skillshare, for collaborating with me one more time. And for you, my dear sewing friends, we have a really great offer. So the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click on the link in the description below will get 1 month free trial of Skillshare so you can start exploring your creativity today. And if you're not sure what Skillshare is all about, then buckle up. It is really a great platform where you can learn pretty much about anything. You have thousands of classes on a variety of topics, including sewing. And what I personally love the most about Skillshare, and I'm sure you've heard me say that time and time again, is that it really is all centered about learning. So there's no ads, the information is really well thought through, and a lot of classes also have some homework that you can do to really solidify the knowledge that you just got from the classes. And you guys know that I love everything creative, and that's usually what I go to Skillshare for. Creative classes, art classes, and design classes, like this one, for example, embroidery on photographs taught by Peggy Dean. And you guys know that I've been stitching my own greeting cards for years now, but this definitely is a step up because this is embroidery on photographs and greeting cards. I mean, you can find some amazing ideas of how to explore your creativity. Okay, so first on my list of tools that will make your life so much easier when you're starting to do pattern drafting at home is the paper. And you guys know very well that in my sewing and drafting videos, I try to not to intimidate you with any amount of tools, so I really use just the bare minimum so that way you can do it at home with what you already have. But having some paper and quite a bit of it will definitely make your life easier because that's what you're going to use to draft your patterns on. Even if you're using draping method instead of flat pattern making, paper will still come in handy. Now I use 3 kinds and you can see which one would be better for you. So first one is this tracing paper. It's called medical paper, and I do have a link for some of these tools in the info box below, and the link is always there, so definitely check it out. So I bought this in 2019 and it was a big roll, and I'm still using it, and believe me, I do a lot of pattern making. But if you're like, whoa, I don't need that big of a roll, then guess what? I also use this as a tissue paper and sometimes wrapping paper, so it definitely comes in handy in all sorts of uses around the house. And I still have a little bit left, but there's another roll already in the mail on the way. This is also particularly great when you work with your pattern blocks and you need to trace your pattern block on a new piece of paper and then start manipulating the darts or work with it in some sort of other way. So this definitely saves the day because you can see through it. Now the next thing that I like to use is wrapping paper. You can get it from Dollar Store or Poundland or your local supermarket. And I like the kind that already has grid lines on it because guess what? That's what we're after. And you might already have some leftover at home as well after the holiday season. So it definitely makes it a little bit easier, a little bit more available, and you don't have to wait for this one to come in the mail or buy such a big roll. And the last one that I use quite a bit is this craft paper. Got it at Home Depot quite a few years ago and still using this roll as well. I also use this to wrap gifts for Christmas time, especially if I'm going for the rustic look. But this is great, let's say if you have made your pattern blocks or some other templates that you're planning to use time and time again. This is quite nice and sturdy. This is not cardstock, but this is nice paper enough to keep the patterns from, too much wear and tear. So this is definitely a winner as well, and as I said, has a multi-use purpose around the house. Next, I have some rulers, and you have certainly seen me use this particular one ruler in majority of my sewing and drafting tutorials, and I use just this one instead of these ones for that particular reason, not to get you intimidated and just to show you that you can certainly use what you have. But these rulers will definitely make your life a little bit easier. Now, even if you're not going to get any of the French curves or any other rulers, get this one. This ruler with a straight 90-degree angle is definitely going to help you out. Here's why. If you're going to use any other paper that has no grid lines, this is going to help you to make sure that all of your lines and all of your angles that need to be straight are actually straight and nothing deforms in the process of drafting your pattern. So definitely get this one and a straight ruler to get started with, and then these you can see if you need them. We have some scissors for cutting paper particularly. Then we have some pencils, of course, for drafting the patterns and erasing them if needed, and a measuring tape for obvious reasons of measuring yourself, which you already probably have at home anyway. Now here's an interesting thing. In majority of my sewing and drafting tutorials, you will see me use a marker, and that is actually something that I don't recommend for you to do when you're drafting your patterns at home, and here's the reason why. The tip of the marker and the marker itself is actually quite thick, and sometimes that thickness can skew the whole pattern as you're drafting it, especially when we talk about fitted patterns like bodice blocks and things like that. So use really nicely sharpened pencils, and the reason why I do use markers in my videos is for the simple reason of you being able to see those pattern lines on camera. Other than that, when I draft anything off camera, I use just a simple pencil. You know, here's another office supply that is really great for pattern drafting, and that is tape, like Scotch tape. But if I were you, I would use matte tape because you can undo it really easily, especially when you're manipulating darts, or maybe you are taping pattern pieces together to see which way would be the best way to, let's say, do color blocking or things like that. So definitely keep that in mind. This is a sewing sketchbook, a very important thing in my opinion for your sewing and pattern drafting journey, and here's why. There will be some things that work for you, there will be some things that don't work for you, there will be some things that you will notice about your figure, about your body, about your measurements, about your style, and this is what really makes it great to keep all of those thoughts in one place, because guess what? I know you're busy, you have work, you have kids, you have friends, other engagements, other things to do in life. You have one weekend to yourself, maybe split days off, and you started drafting, you made a decision to, let's say, shorten this by this many inches or lengthen it by this many inches because you suddenly realized that this is your perfect length, and then you just did a pattern and hey, needed to make a dinner, needed to do laundry, something else. After that, guess what? Do you remember by how many inches did you shorten it? Let's say you did not write it down in a pattern. Of course not. So this is really great to keep all of your thoughts organized, to keep track of what are you doing, when are you doing. And I know this might sound like a lot of work, but definitely, believe me, it does pay off big time. Not to mention that this is nothing fancy. You can borrow a, simple textbook from your kids, although I'm not sure that kids use these anymore, or you can buy one at Walmart, at your local office supply store, or get one on Amazon. They're really not expensive, budget-friendly options are out there, and this definitely is worth the investment. Now, believe me when I say that you will need some sort of either filing system or storage system for your self-drafted patterns, because you will have quite a few of them, and just imagine all of the loose pattern pieces, pockets, hems, facings, design elements that go to this or that pattern piece. Definitely need to make sure that everything is organized and easily accessible, especially if you're going to be using those patterns time and time again, because that's the point of making your own, right? So invest in either a folder or maybe some manila envelopes or maybe some clear filing pouches as well that you can use to organize all of your self-drafted patterns. And you know, I actually do have a separate video about that, and I will leave that one for you in the info box below to check it out. And you know, I think that out of this whole list, the most valuable thing that you could ever invest in is a good book or a course or maybe an online class, something that will get you a step further in the right direction. Because as I said, you can use pretty simple tools to get you started with pattern drafting, but knowledge is the real value. What settles here? The knowledge that you gain, the skills that you're learning, that's the real value out of this whole experience. Now, pattern drafting books and sewing books in general can be pretty expensive. You can do a quick Google search, especially if you want to build up your own home library of sewing and pattern making books. Yes, it can add up really quickly. However, here's a really well forgotten option, your local library. Chances are they might have a book or two, or you might also request a book with them, and then they might get that book specifically for you. Some libraries do that kind of option. So that is definitely one of the really budget-friendly options that doesn't even cost you anything. Don't ignore this one, okay? Get some muslin or some practice material or some fabric that you can use to try out your sewing pattern designs. And that is also another way how to really combat that fear of cutting into your good fabric, because first you're gonna try out your drafted designs on muslin, and after you have definitely made sure that everything fits, or maybe you need to make some adjustments, after that you will cut into your good fabric for a final project. But this is really great to develop your pattern making skills when we're talking about drafting your own sewing patterns. And muslin comes in pretty cheap, and you can find it pretty much at any fabric store. So you'll definitely be able to find some for your own use. And when I buy it, I usually buy 5 yards right away. So that way I always have it on hand when I do have a pattern drafting project in mind. And as you already know, that's pretty much my daily life. Okay, I gotta say this one more time. This is my personal list of my personal tools that I use for my pattern drafting. There are many other tools that you can use, like for example, Notch Maker. And I don't use it because I make my notches with scissors. It's easy, I snip it, and I don't have to have another extra tool in my sewing room. I like to keep it pretty minimal, but of course there are many other tools that you can use. So don't limit yourself to this list, but if you've been inspired and encouraged by my videos, then I definitely encourage you to keep on watching. Now, if you did enjoy this video, then we might be on the same wavelength about sewing, and I'm really happy to welcome you here. So definitely click on the video right over here, because it will take you to another sewing and drafting video that I think you will definitely enjoy and make yourself something beautiful for this season. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy sewing. I know you can do it, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!